Hey, Happy New Year! This is Paul from Wondershare MobileTrans, and today what we're going to have a look at is some of the best phones that were released in 2020, and there were a lot of them, so stay tuned for our 5 top best Android phones. 2020 gave us some of the best Android phones that we have ever had. So today what we're going to do is have a look at our favourite 5 Android phones, and we will start off and kick off this list with the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. The Galaxy Note 20 Ultra was a really high price phone at $1,299, and people thought that was extremely expensive, but for that amount of money you got some really good specs. You got a 6.9-inch AMOLED 120Hz display, which is one of the best displays on the market. The phone also came with that Snapdragon 865 Plus, which enabled it to have some of the best 5G speeds around on a phone as well. And with all of that, you could get some massive storage options as well, which went up to 512GB with internal storage. And the good specs don't stop there either. So the main camera on this Galaxy Note 20 Ultra was 108 megapixels. And because of that 108 megapixels, it took some fantastic photos, and some of the best photos that we've ever seen here at MobileTrans on a mobile device. These Galaxy phones are never small though, and this was not a small phone either. It was actually quite heavy and also quite wide, but it needed to be big and heavy and wide to fit in all of those specs into this Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. And one of those things was the battery. So you got a 4,500 mAh battery on this phone, and that could get you almost 11 hours of battery life, which from a phone is incredible. The Galaxy Note 20 Ultra was probably one of the most advanced Android phones of all time, where if you had it, you would absolutely love it. But the one downside, if there was anything, is that price was just a little bit too much. One of the next phones that we loved here at MobileTrans was this. It was the Google Pixel 4a, one of the most budget-friendly Android phones to come out in 2020, and it's also one of our favourite because even though it is a budget phone, you get some incredible specs on this. First of all, it comes with 6GB of RAM and 128GB of internal storage, and for the price of what this Pixel 4a is, that internal storage is very, very good. But the main selling point of the Pixel 4a always is those cameras. So on this phone you get a 12 megapixel camera, and that is the same megapixel camera, the exact same sensor that is in the Google Pixel 4, which is the flagship phone from Google last year. The front-facing camera is also 8 megapixels, but this takes some of the best selfies that you can get on an Android device as well. But that is the big point. It also brought something back from the dead, which not a lot of phones have anymore, and that is that headphone jack. So if you had a really good, nice pair of headphones that you need to plug into something, then the Google Pixel 4a will let you do that. The battery on the Pixel 4a is not the biggest at 3,100 mAh, but because of the smaller body and the smaller screen, you get such a good day's battery life out of this. So you can easily go a day, maybe a day and a half without even having to charge it. There are a few downsides to buying a budget Android phone though, and the Pixel 4a has a few of those downsides. So there is no IP rating, so this is not water resistant or waterproof, so don't go dropping it in the toilet, and it does not have any wireless charging if that is something that you're really into. It also only comes in one colour, which is just black, so for some people that might not be enough variety, but the overall conclusion and the reason why this is in our top phones, it is the cheapest Google phone that you can get, and it is not that far away from the Google Pixel 5, which is Google's flagship phone. So if you want a phone that is nice, it does everything that you need and is budget friendly, then the Google Pixel 4a is for you. The OnePlus 8T also makes it onto our list, and there is a reason why it makes it onto our top 5 Android phones of 2020. First of all, let's talk about the screen and the display. So here you get a 120Hz display instead of 90Hz, and remember, some phones are still were releasing a 60Hz display in 2020, but not the OnePlus 8T. The OnePlus 8T also has some of the quickest charging around as well, at a wired charging speed of 65 watts, so you can get all your battery charged fully in almost 2 hours. You also then on the back of the phone get a quad camera setup, so it's not just a triple camera setup. So here what you get is that main camera, you get a zoom lens, you get an ultra wide, and then you also get a macro lens, so you're getting 4 cameras here instead of 3. It also has one of the best Android operating systems as well, with Oxygen OS. This is as close as you can get to stock Android, and actually this sometimes makes using the phone even better. And some other things that we really like about the OnePlus 8T is that it has that incredible charging, of course, that we've mentioned. It also has 5G capabilities, and if you are someone who is into gaming, then this might just be the phone for you. Next might be a phone you don't expect to see on this list, but that is a Sony Xperia 5 Mark II. And again, it is in there for some very good reasons. And I want to tell you first of all about its video capability. And this can do 4K at 120 frames a second. And that really stands it out away from a lot of the Android phones that were released in 2020. As well as that, it also has eye tracking autofocus, which is something you really do not see on any other phone. When you go and have a look at that screen, it's a 6.1-inch OLED, again with a 120Hz refresh rate. So any phone that has 120Hz refresh rate should definitely be in this list, because that is the way forward. It has 8 gigs of RAM and comes in base storages of 128 gigabytes or 256. And that is something you expect for a phone that can record in 4K at 120 frames per second, because that will start to eat up the storage on your phone. The battery on this one is not huge. It's only a 4000 mAh battery, but it does kind of make up for that with what it gives you when you can use that battery. So first of all, you go ahead and you get a headphone jack again on this phone, which is nice to see. When you're watching video, that is when this comes alive. So you get those stereo speakers and you get Dolby Atmos, and as well as that, you get 360 reality audio, which is something that not many phones have at all. This phone takes most of those features from that Sony Xperia 1 Mark II, but it gives it you at a more affordable price. So if a Sony phone is something that you like to keep hold of, then this might be just the phone for you. And the final phone on this list of our top 5 phones of 2020 is that Huawei Mate40 Pro. The colours of this phone just make it look absolutely fantastic, and it is not just that gets it onto this list. It has a 6.7-inch OLED display, but only 90Hz on this phone. But it's not that 90Hz refresh rate screen that gets it on this list, it is those cameras. That rear camera, the main camera, is a 50 megapixel camera. It then is accompanied by a 20 megapixel ultra wide and then a 12 megapixel telephoto camera, and it just takes some incredible photos. These are some of the best photos that you can take on any phone that is out there at the moment, and really rivals some of the phones that are like the Google Pixel or even maybe an iPhone on the Apple side of things. It has that Kirin 9000 chip and paired with 8 gigabytes of RAM, and then when you get to that storage, we are looking at 256 gigabytes of internal storage, and coupled with that, you then get 5G as well. So this makes it one of the fastest Android phones out there. This makes it one of the fastest Android phones that you can go and buy. It has a 4400 mAh battery, which you may have seen already from some other phones, that can easily last you a day and maybe just a little bit longer. And if it didn't, then guess what? This has the fastest wired charging that you can get on a phone at the moment, which beats the OnePlus charging. This has 66 watt of wired fast charging. If wireless charging is your thing, brilliant, because then you get 50 watts of wireless charging as well. So the highlight for us is that you can go and get some of the best photos in the world on this phone, but the downside is that your apps might be limited because Huawei doesn't actually have access to that Google Play Store as it stands. So maybe you just have to have a little look at whether the camera outweighs what you can do with the Google Play Store. There we go, they are our 5 best Android phones of 2020. Did your Android phone make it to the list? Let us know in the comments below, and also let us know if we missed anything out as well. If you enjoyed this video, a like would be great, and why not subscribe to the channel for more of this type of content here on MobileTrans.